Hey everyone, welcome back to Beekeeping with Natalie, or welcome to if you are new. Today's video is going to be our extracting video of 2024. We always do just one a year, and it's just kind of like an updated version from the year before. So we're finally getting around to doing this one. It's been months of extracting, and we're just now getting around to doing this because it's actually our last set of supers. So these are all the supers we have left to extract, and then we'll be done for the year, which is crazy to think about. We pulled these 2 days ago, I think it was, and they were testing good. They look great. They're a little bit closer to not like full supers just because it's towards the end of the year, but we're still going to extract them and just show you how we do that today. So I don't know if you'll notice, but this is a little bit of a different spot than we usually do it in. Usually we're just like in the garage hoping that it's not like a million degrees and like maybe one fan, and we're always sweating. I didn't do a lot of extracting the last couple of years because it sucked, but basically this is our new honey house. My dad built this like, I don't know, it was like a month or so ago, and I helped a little bit. I just stood there and supported him a little bit, but it's not finished, as you can see. We still have to put the walls on and everything and all the nice flooring and lighting. We're using a lamp right now, but it works. We've got windows, so it's fine. There's a loft up there, which is going to be nice for just storing supers. Behind you, there's a ton of supers that we extracted. I don't know if you kind of want to show it. It's a little messy in here just because it's been a long year, and this is where currently everything's going whenever we're done with it. Those are all the supers that we have extracted. Frames are in them. They're good to go for next year. What we're going to do with that is we'll use Paramoth. We use it every year. It works really well. We always make sure I usually do a video on it, but what we'll do is probably another video, but we're going to put like a queen excluder below and then on top. That way it protects it from mice, and then Paramoth, which will help with all the moths and everything like that, all those fun creatures. So that's going to happen there, but for now they're just staying right there. But let's actually talk about extracting. So basically we have these supers set on carts, and there's usually a queen excluder on the bottom of it too, just in case. I don't think there are this time, but these are just like rolly carts that we can move around. And then there's a tarp, of course, just in case, we have some honey drippage. It happens every single year. Somebody lets a bucket overflow, and I might have been that person this year. It was once. I think Dad's done it at least like 3 times already, so it's not that big of a deal. But anyways, so we also have, I don't know where this came from, but it's a frame cracker. Figured I would just mention that real quick. So I don't know if that's the real word for it, frame cracker. I have no idea. But basically you just put the super on top, and then there's these little tabs that push the frames up. We've been using this year, and it actually works really well. I kind of like it. Makes it a little bit easier to pull those frames apart. Now, most of our stuff is Hilco at the moment. All right. I don't know if John's gonna watch this, but I'm not gonna say too much. But basically, most of it is Hilco right now. I don't know. We're just kind of in between, where you can't get a commercial setup, but you also can't just do like a little 2-frame extractor. So we're in between there right now, which makes it difficult because extracting is really long, and the system is good, but it's not efficient enough. So we're working on it, but I think the other week I extracted for like 3 days straight, or like 2 days straight, and it was long. And it was only like, I don't know, like 15 or, it was 24 supers, I think it was. But one of the things about this year also is we have a dehumidifier in here, and we'll leave it in here for like a day or two just to get all of that moisture out of the honey. And what can happen is we'll forget about it, or we'll just leave it in there for too long, and the moisture will get all the way down to like 16%. I tested one a while ago that was, I don't think I told you this, it was 13. And extracting that is awful because it just doesn't spin out because it's so thick. Anywho, I think this one is testing more like 18 right now, which is good. It extracts really fast, a lot faster that way. But let's talk about what we have here. So this is a 40-inch uncapping tank. I can't remember how many we could fit in here. I feel like it was like 19 or something like that. That might be too many, I'm not sure. But the frames just fit right here. So I'll uncap it and then put it right here, and you can just slide it around, and then you can do that all the way down. I can get like 19, I think it is. I don't remember. But That just helps whenever you're actually extracting and spinning. You can go ahead and start uncapping for the next round. So I can get like 19 or so of them in here, and then the next round I already have these prepped and ready to go. So that just makes it a little bit faster also. Another thing you'll notice on the inside here, we have patties. I talk about this every year also, but basically what we do with these is we'll uncap the honey and then it just goes down in here like this. The main reason I have gloves on right now is because we're touching all of it and it's of course sticky. But what we do is we just take it, we'll let this drain for a little bit, so we'll just move it around like this, smush it up, and then we'll let it drain for like a day or two, and then we'll come through and we'll turn them into patties, which is just putting it into a ball and then turning it into a patty like this. This was just uncapped, so it's a little bit more wet and it needs to sit for a little bit longer, so I'm just gonna leave this in here. But they'll turn in to look like this. So these were made today, I believe, right? After this wax had been sitting for a while. And we'll just leave them right here, and basically it just drains more of the honey and we end up getting just a little bit more honey out of it. When you're uncapping like this, you're taking a lot of the honey off. Like you'll notice when I do this, you can see a lot of the honey falling off. And so you want to make sure you're able to keep as much as you can from that, because we aren't able to spin this because we don't have a wax spinner. So this just makes it a little bit easier. We'll turn them into these patties like that. There's a whole tote over there that has patties in them currently, and we'll end up probably melting that, and that'll go towards just anything. A lot of times it's going to go towards waxing frames for the next year, and also making chapstick and selling beeswax. We do that also. So that's where that's going to go, but we get a lot of wax out of this usually, and we just want to make sure we're getting all the honey that we can. So when you turn it into patties, it just makes, you just get more honey out of it. I don't know all the science behind it. I just know that Mike Berry, was it Mike Berry? Yeah, he was the one who had showed it on a video, so of course I had to do it and then tell everybody that's where we got the idea from. So we've been doing that for the last few years, and it works really well. So you can literally just turn on some music and just sit there and make patties, and I enjoy it because I like playing with wax. But anywho, let's move on. So then we've got a 32. Oh, by the way, I don't know if I said, this is from Hilco also. There's also a little, like, I don't know what you call this. Grate maybe, where the wax just sits on top, and then there's probably about like this, I don't know, there's probably like this much space or so where the honey just kind of sits in there. You can let it sit for a little while, but there's a bucket on this side over here that it basically just drains into. If you want to come around and see that. So we've got this filter on it, and then it just drains into that bucket, and then that honey is good to go. And we actually get a lot of honey out of this. So that'll just, the gate will be open and we'll just switch the buckets out. But usually we're getting a lot of honey whenever we're uncapping because there's just so much coming from it. That's how this works. I really like it. Then there's also this little piece on top that it has a little, like, I don't know what you'd call that, sharp thing that you set the frame on, just like this. That way it's not going to move around or fall off because it's right here. It's just all that honey. It's going to slide all over the place. So you just kind of hold it on there. It's not going to fall off. You can also spin it around. Makes it a little bit easier, a little bit faster. So that's also there. You can move it around too. There's different holes. There's holes that go all the way up and down if you want to move it wherever you want to put it. And then this is a 32 extractor. And it's already 32 frame extractor. It's pretty much already full and ready to go. There's like 3 frames missing. That's what we're going to do today. And so far it works really well. I'll kind of show you how that works too. There was another one behind you that we were using. It's a 9 frame and it works too. If we're trying to go really fast, we'll have both of them going at the same time. There she is in all her glory. She works great. Yeah, it's kind of, we'll just have both of them going if we can. It's a lot of work also that way, so we've just been using this for now. If you have 2 people doing it, it goes a lot faster. We figured that out today actually. 1 person it'll last a couple days if you're doing this many just because of the system, but if you have 2 people doing it, it goes a little bit quicker. So that's what we have been doing. But let's get to actually uncapping here. So this is a Pierce uncapping knife. I don't know if anybody's seen all the things with Pierce, but they actually got moved over to, is it Man Lake? So I don't know a whole lot on that. All I know is that the products are still really good, and if you're gonna buy an uncapping knife, pot knife, I would recommend Pierce because they just have a really, made in the US, their stuff is really good. I've never had any problems with it. I've gotten their, what's that called? Their uncapping tank. That's great. We use it every year still. Their knives, all of their grafting equipment, just everything in there. They have a lot of really good stuff. I've got a link. Oh, their honey gates are really good. I've noticed that. I have a link that I always put in the description if you want to use that. It's an affiliate link. Do I have a code? I'll put all of the information in the description if you want to check it out. I'll try to put it in the comments if we remember also. Okay, I think we can probably get to uncapping now. So one of the things that I always tell people is if you're wanting to, just in general when it comes to uncapping, it's a lot easier, you make it a lot easier on yourself if you do 9 frames in your super. So we use mediums, 10 frame boxes, and if you're using that, I would recommend at least doing 9 because it basically spreads those frames out enough to where there's just a tiny bit of space in between each one. So what happens is the bees build it out just a little bit thicker, and it makes uncapping a lot easier because you'll notice if you look from the top right here, the wax comes out just a little bit rather than like that side it doesn't. So this side is going to be hard to uncap because the knife isn't going to be able to get to it, but when it's thicker like this, it gets to it a lot easier and it just makes uncapping so much faster. So we try to think about that earlier in the year about making sure that we keep all of them 9 frames. Do we always do it? No, and this year was one of those years we did not do it. So that also has made extracting a lot longer because what we have to use is a scraper like this to scrape it. So whenever the knife can't get to it, what we do is take this and we go under the wax and then pull it up like that and then just keep going. So that's what I'll have to do on this one and some other ones, especially if there's only like a little bit of wax that they've capped on there. Usually you'll have to use this. But the reason we go under instead of scraping it like this, if you do it like that, you'll notice it you have to push harder and it ends up ruining that wax a little bit more. And you don't get as much wax that way either. So it kind of messes up that frame and makes it a little bit trickier for the bees the next year. And I also feel like it's almost faster if you do it this way. It might take a little bit longer actually, but you'll just see it looks a little bit different here. This is like there's a whole hole right here now. So we try to just go under and then pull it up just to save the bees some work for the next year. And there were some other reasons to that, but I don't remember. I just do what I'm told. So then with this, I have it on. There's a little range that you'll see on the, I don't know what that's called. There's a spot in between it. I don't know what I have it on there. Where's it at?
It's at 5.
So it's at 5. That's probably about right. And usually that's good. I don't usually have to turn it up any hotter than that. And all you do is just start it from the top and then just, I haven't extracted today actually, so if this is bad, it's because it's my first time today. That wasn't bad actually. Okay, so anyways, sometimes also if they haven't capped it yet, but it's still really thick up here, I still like to go ahead and take the knife through it because sometimes it's too thick to go into the extractor, so I usually just go through anyways. But you can do like a little notch at the top, which I'll show you what that looks like here. Hopefully there's at least a few frames in here that are good to go for using the knife. But so what you can do, I've talked about this in some of my videos, is you can make a little notch at the top first by just going up and then uncapping. I feel like it just takes a little bit longer, so I don't do that part. It's kind of hard to do this, but so you can go really slow and do it like this, and that's for sure gonna peel it off really nicely. For me, I just kind of do like big, so that'll happen, but do like bigger strokes almost and just like push all the way down. I feel like it makes it a little bit faster, but I'm not sure. So I don't make the little notch, I just start at the top and then just, the other thing is your gloves will start to get sticky and then they'll just like start to slide off of that handle. You gotta watch out for that. But that's it. So like that one was really easy and nice because there wasn't any spots where the knife couldn't reach. So it just sliced it all the way down, and now it's completely uncapped and ready to go. And it's also, you'll notice it looks really nice. It's flat. There's no pieces that it tore or made a hole into it. So it's good to go. Also, sometimes it'll make it hard if they have any wax that they built on the side right here, like one of these frames, because that wax always tends to be a little bit harder and thicker, and it's just harder to uncap it that way. So sometimes you'll get stuck right there. Like this on top, if that was on the side here, it makes it a little bit trickier, but that's just one thing I've noticed. So I'll just keep uncapping. If it starts to pull a little bit, like right there, you can see instead of like slicing it, it just kind of pulled it off. Sometimes your knife isn't hot enough. I did just turn it on like before, right when we started the video, so it might not be fully heated yet. So we might have to turn it up just a little bit, but. So this one, I don't know if it's gonna get all of it. It looks a little, might miss some. Okay, so you can see how it missed that top half. That's because it couldn't get to it because it wasn't thick enough. That's just one thing to know early in the year if you want to do the 9 frame, makes it a little bit easier. Also with 9 frames, people will talk about getting a 9 frame divider or something. Separator, something like that. We have some, and every time I use it, I get frustrated because I can't figure out how to do it right. And also, we have so much propolis that it doesn't work really well because those frames don't want to move. So what you can do is just put your frames into your super, put 9 of them in there, and then you just shake the box and it evens them out perfectly. So we don't even worry about the separators or dividers, whatever. And that's just what we do, so that makes it a little bit easier. Oh, there's bees in here. Sometimes they find a way in, but. Okay, also I wanted to talk about these strainers. So here's one right here. It's fresh, it's new, ready to go. I don't know where we get these. Hilco? I think it's Hilco. But also another, like a lot of other places sell these. If you go to any conference, you'll usually be able to find one of these. I see them everywhere. But they have like two spots where they filter through. So they have the top part that they filter, and then there's another spot. So this one's been, you'll see that it just collects any of that wax, and then there's always bees that end up getting in there. So there's this part, and then there's a part down there, and that just gets all of the tiny little stuff. So we always filter it. Sometimes, if we're trying to like go quick and we need to get it done that day, what we'll do is just not filter it, and we'll filter it later. It makes it a lot faster because these will get clogged up, and then it takes a lot longer to extract your honey and just filter through into those buckets. Now all we're doing is putting this into the extractor. So there's little slits right here you can see where it slides into. So there's one at the top and one at the bottom there. So you just put it in there, and then it just sits right there, and they don't move at all. I've never had anything pop out. So there's one at the same spot right here, and then there's one down there that it kind of slides into. Just like that. One of the things you'll also want to know about filling up your extractor, just think about kind of the weight of your frames, because all the frames are going to be different. Some of them are going to be really full, and others are going to have maybe only one side of honey on it, and that can mess up the weight of it. So if one side's heavier than the other, the extractor is going to start to like shake, and that's always fun. I'll try to keep it down, but I'm just a tiny little girl that I can't keep it down all the way. So anyways, you just want to note that if you're trying to kind of level it out, like one of the things you'll notice here is plastic frames are always heavier than wood. It's really frustrating. I actually hate plastic frames because they don't fit very well in here, and they're also a lot harder to uncap, and they break a lot faster, but I think they're cheaper, and they also are just easier to set up. Wooden ones, sometimes you have to put them together, but you'll notice there's a plastic frame right here, and then on the complete other side there's another plastic frame. So we're just evening it out by keeping it on opposite sides. So that's just something to note if you're doing this. Also, there is this right here, which is our man leg uncapping tank. This is what we've used the last few years. It works really well. It's basically the same thing as this, but just a little bit smaller. It has the same grate in the bottom and whatever. The only thing different is the gate on this is on the direct bottom of it. It's not on the side here, it's on the bottom. Is it on that side or the side? Okay, so it's down there. So that's nice because it's getting all of the honey there, but also can be tricky to get a bucket under there. So there's just pros and cons to everything. Now, this is the fun part. So we'll close this lid and then get it started. So it's already on and ready to go. All you have to do is just turn this little dial. There we go. So I'll usually start by putting it up to like 50, maybe, just to get it started and get it going a little bit. So that's 52. So it'll take it a second to get up to speed. Now, yeah, that's one thing you'll notice. It's very quiet. Now, if you've watched any of my past extracting videos, you'll know we had a Dadent 20 frame, and we could fit like 32 or 36 in there, something like that. And that was pushing it a little bit. And that thing was, did we retire it? It's basically retired. I mean, it still works, but it's crazy loud. You can never like talk over it, and it would just shake and move around, and you could never keep it down. And also, it had just one of those, like, I forget what they're called, but it was like a, I don't even know. It wasn't a button. It wasn't like a dial like this. It was just like hoping that it was going to stay there and not fall off. So we ended up not using that one this year. But so that's 50, and I just slowly move it up. So we'll get it up there to, that's 73. So as it gets faster, you'll notice it kind of starting to just slowly rock like this. So the higher you get, so I just hit 80, and then you'll hear it. It starts to get a little bit louder, but that's still not loud whatsoever. I mean, you can have a conversation over it. So you can see here, here's inside. Now, I'll just keep this going for a while, but what I'll look at is the side right here. You're probably not going to be able to see it, but on the side here, I'll see the honey just spinning out. So I can see it right now. So it's hitting the side of the wall. So that's what I'm going to look for while I'm spinning it. And once I stop seeing that, that's when I know that probably most of the honey's come out of those frames and it's ready to be pulled. But I usually leave this going for at least 10 minutes or so, and it usually gets everything out. Now, like I said, if it's testing at like 18 or 19, you're usually good to go, and you probably only need 10 or so minutes on it. But if it's testing more like 13, which isn't normal, that was only like one super, I think, then it's going to take a lot longer to spin. I think I spun one a while ago that took like 30 minutes or so. So that's 100. So it's getting there. So I kind of just let that go for a little bit until it starts to just even out a little bit. Some of that honey's come out, and then I'll slowly kick it up to speed. Now with this extractor, I'll get this one up to almost like 360. This one's a little different. I usually only get it up to maybe like 270, if that, but usually that's good. So it just goes like that for forever, feels like. But as it's doing that, I'll go ahead and continue to uncap, and then I'll lay it right here. And when you have two of them, you can also put them in there. So you can slide frames up in here and then some more down here. And if we had our Pearson capping tank, we could also put it in there. So that's getting you almost probably over 20 or so frames that are uncapped. So it just saves you a lot of time. You can do something in between, of course, but now let's talk about the bucket that we have over here. So these are just 5-gallon buckets that we're currently using. We'll probably move over. What?
Food grade.
They're food grade buckets that we get from Menards, and they work really well. So I'm going to show you how this is just the filter that we have, and it just lays on top of here, and it has these little sides that move. So if you're doing something that might be bigger, you can pull this apart and then slide it in. And then this is the gate, so it just slides up. There's the honey. So you'll see it's mostly clean, but every now and then you're going to get a really big chunk of wax, and this is just going to catch that. I don't usually let it go that fast. I usually keep it about right there, just so it has plenty of time to filter through. It hasn't even hit the bucket yet. It's still going through both of the filters right there. Still hasn't hit the bucket, so it just shows you how long it really does take. Okay, so now it's starting to go through down to the bottom there, so it's starting to fill up. So I'll just make sure to pay attention to that. But once it's done, it'll look like this bucket right here, and then we'll go ahead and put a lid on that, and it's good to go. And then from there, it's going to go into the bottling tank, and then into bottles, and then to the store. So that's really it. If it just so happens, if something happens that year that they end up repurposing some wax, or that's like really small stuff, whatever it is, we might have to filter it twice, but not normally. Usually this is about it. We will be going to barrels probably pretty soon here, probably within the next day or two, once we can get our barrels all figured out and ready to go. But we've got, I don't know how many buckets, probably up to, we've already used a lot of them. They're already going really fast. The other day I remember I uncapped it, extracted it, and then it just went out the door. Like, it didn't even get to stay the night. So I'm gonna get this up going a little bit faster now. This is now at, so you'll see it kind of shaking a little bit here. I'll let it do that for a while, but once it starts to really start to shake, so this is shaking quite a bit now, so I'll probably leave it there for a couple minutes. So it's at 120. It'll start to create a lot of fan too. It's kind of nice. But also another thing about having a honey house like this is we can now have some type of air conditioning in here, and we can control the temperature of it, which is really great. So whenever we want to keep the honey in here, but we don't want it to be freezing cold, we can keep it a little bit warmer, but then when we're in here extracting, we can get it a little bit cooler for us. So that's been really nice this year. Then you can actually kind of live out here, which is what I've been doing. So that's really it though. So we'll just slap a lid on these buckets and they'll be good to go. I don't know. It's been a pretty good honey year. I think I talked about earlier this year, I was like, I have no idea if it's going to be good. It's probably going to be an awful year, but we always say that. And it ended up being really good actually. The hives did really well. We did a lot of single brood this year, and I think in the long run, I've done a couple talks on this the last couple days, and I think I've pretty much decided that you can definitely get more honey off of single brood. It's just more work, but I'm okay with that because at the end of the day, it's really nice to have all of this honey. But we had a pretty good year. The bees filled up a lot of supers. We have a lot of new comb that's going to be used for next year for sure. But I think the flow is pretty much over. We have goldenrod and aster going right now, but I went over to a yard about 30 minutes before this video, and they weren't really on it. It's just a field of goldenrod, and it didn't look like they were on it at all. So like I say every year, we never count on our fall flow because one, I hate fall honey. It's just not good to me. And two, we go ahead and just give that back to the bees because we've taken so much from them, especially on those single brood. And also, sometimes it just doesn't happen. Sometimes we don't get a fall flow. So that's why we don't even bother. We've just gone ahead and pulled all of them. And I'm glad we did that because it doesn't look like we did really get a fall flow at all. So we've been feeding a lot today. That's what I did today. And pollen sub, all of that fun stuff. So that's pretty much it. It's crazy to think that the year is basically over. I mean, we're going to extract all of this today, hopefully. And then our season will pretty much be done. And it'll be preparing for winter, which is crazy. But I'm going to kick this up a little bit, and then we're just going to pull these frames out. What I'll do is I'll put 9 in them this time. I'll make sure to put 9 in each super. That way, when I come back next year to put supers on, those supers are ready to go. Nothing needs to be done there. They're ready to just be pulled out of the honey house and put onto a hive, and they'll be good to go. They can fill it up immediately. So that's going to be really nice. So they'll probably be stored in here for now for overwintering. I don't know. It might be somewhere different, but we'll do a video on that, on just storing wax. I know a lot of people ask questions about that. It's really not that hard if you do it right, and we've done the same thing for the last few years, and it works really well. I think that's it. So we're just going to let this drain. I'm going to open up this gate a little bit because there is some wax that got stuck there, but I'm probably just going to let this spin for a while and continue uncapping, and that'll be pretty much it. So I probably forgot to say something, but I think that's about it for now. Do I talk about the different filters? We do have 2 different filters here. The one that I have over there, and then the one that's below here, they are just a little bit different. This isn't the full right here, but basically this is going to get every tiny little piece. So some years, if they repurpose some wax, which is what happened last year, and they ended up repurposing some really old wax that was like dark and it was like just straight black. And basically what happens is it got into the honey, and then once you put that into a bottle, you can see all of it. So we ended up having to use something like this, which is more of a strong filter. It's still raw honey, it's just being filtered a little bit heavier to get all of that little stuff out. So that's just the difference between these two. That's why we're keeping this one on that bucket over there, because this is just wax. Who knows what is in this. But with this one, it's a little bit different because it's a little bit cleaner. But if you want to come over back to this bucket here, and then we'll end the video, you can see how quick this bucket is filling up and how fast this filter filled up. So you just have to keep an eye on that. You can't really walk away unless you have it closed. But I mean, if I let it go all the way, this filter is going to fill up really fast and then start to overflow. And for now, it's just going to overflow into that bucket, but then before I know it, it'll start overflowing onto the floor. So we have to watch it. Don't ask how I know. Anyways, I think that's all for today's video. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, leave it in the comment section and I'll try to get to it. I'll leave all the links in the description and comment section. But I think that's it. So thanks for watching. Follow along for more bee adventures and be here next time on Beekeeping with Natalie.